InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
We're quickly approaching February 15th, which is this Friday, which marks the end of the continued resolution to fund the government for another, I think it was about 3 weeks that they funded it. You'll remember that just a few weeks ago, President Trump shut down the government over $5.7 billion, which he wanted in order to fund the construction of a border wall on the southern border of the United States. And he was willing to shut down the government over this. And me and others said that there is a reason to do that, and he should own it. He should take it and say, yes, I'm willing to shut down the government. You can blame it on me if you want. I'm the one shutting it down because this is an important enough issue that is worthy of having the government shut down over. The Democrats need to give us the money because this is what the people want. Donald Trump obviously received a mandate from the American people in order to build the wall, and the Democrats are resisting this. Now, there is a certain process, there's a certain formula that you have to follow in these types of negotiations, and you've seen the president do this a few different times. You saw it last year with DACA, the way that he takes a hardline stance, and then he extends something, and then he pulls back all the way. Because the process is to do that. It's to say, I'm standing for this. The Democrats need to come around. And then the people get to see that the Democrats are acting as obstructionists. They're not willing to negotiate in good faith. And then you say, okay, you know what? I'll compromise a little bit. I'll offer you, in that case, it was DACA. He said, let's negotiate DACA. I was going to get rid of it, but let's negotiate. Let's find a way for them to stay here, get permanent status, a path to citizenship, etc. And the Democrats say, no, it's not good enough. We want all or nothing. We want DACA and no wall. And the president can say, look, I tried to extend a compromise to them, and they wouldn't even do that. Hardball doesn't work. Compromise doesn't work. So we're just going to do things our own way. Now, of course, it didn't work so well last time because things got caught up in the courts, and it kind of neutered the strategy. But the president was following along this similar process with this shutdown. He shut down the government saying, no, we need to talk about this. The wall needs to be built. And then he tried to offer a little bit of a compromise. He was acting conciliatory. And this continued resolution should be viewed in that lens. However, if he doesn't use that now to say that, look, it's not working when I play hardball. It's not working when I try to give the Democrats time. We reopened the government. I empathize with the workers that are not getting paid. We reopened the government, gave time to negotiate, and the Democrats would still not come to an agreement. And that's the case because last Friday or so, we received word that Nancy Pelosi was taking a non-interventionist stance. She said, if they can, this is a bipartisan committee, if the committee can come to an agreement and they can put a bill on the president's desk, then I will not, I won't object. We'll just let it go through as it does. Seemed like things were going well. But by Sunday, negotiations had broken down. The Democrats said, no, we're not giving any money for a wall. Republicans were obviously unhappy with that. The president said, with no wall funding, there's no bill getting signed. Well, now, suddenly, things turn around, and we have a bill that they have come to an agreement on. But before I go into the terms of the bill, you'll remember last year with the omnibus bill, it offered $1.6 billion for funding for border security, not the wall. There he says, when I begrudgingly signed the omnibus bill, I was promised the wall and border security by leadership. It would be done by the end of year, which would be now, and it did not happen. And that's the, he said, I will never sign a bill like this again. And it offered $1.6 billion for border security. Again, not a wall, just border security. Well, this new bill that the committee has agreed upon now that they will likely be sending to the president only contains $1.3 billion for a wall. And this will go to funding 55 miles of a barrier. It would be the steel slats that the president has talked about. 55 miles does not compare to the 200 miles that would be funded by the $5.7 billion that the president requested initially. Now, this is already way, way, way down from the $20 billion or so that would be needed to fund the entirety of the wall. There's about, I believe that the border between the U.S. and Mexico spans about 2,000 miles. So instead of 5.7, we're not even getting the $1.6 billion that's like the one last year that he said he would not sign off on again. We're getting $1.3 billion, which funds significantly less than the 5.7 that he was initially requesting. The president said if there's no border funding, if there's not $5.7 billion, then he's not going to sign off on it. And he's floated this idea of executive action. And I think that we are in the scenario in which he plays hardball. He offers a compromise. He acts conciliatory. The Democrats still do not agree to work in good faith. So he has no choice but to come down and use his executive authority. There's really no contest. Of course, people on the left and, on the mainstream media, et cetera, they'll talk about how, he can't use his executive authority for this. By people who actually are intellectually honest, it's pretty obvious that this is allowed. This is something that he can do. There was even a bill put together by somebody that was formerly in the military that was on his desk from the beginning. And it's kind of disappointing to hear that that was the case, that it was floating around throughout the administration and that it wasn't used. Because if it was used then it would have already gotten blocked by the courts, just like the travel ban was. And it would already be through the courts, ruled constitutional, and we could have begun work on it, much like the travel ban was. So that's unfortunate to learn about. And this is why it's necessary that the president, if they do not give him an appropriate bill, that the president uses his executive action to do so, because we've seen nothing. President Trump has done a lot of good in a lot of ways, and we cannot discount that. We can also not discount how far he's pushed the direction and the conversation of, towards our way of thinking. But when it comes to the wall, we've seen nothing but kicking the can down the road. He could have signed off on the executive action when he first got into office. He could have, he tried to do it last year with the omnibus bill, with the spending bill. He tried to use that as leverage. Unfortunately, with DACA, that got neutered by the courts blocking him and unconstitutional. DACA is ruled unconstitutional. Then Obama signs it into effectively law. It's not a law, but it's an executive action. He disregards the fact that it's unconstitutional. He uses executive authority to do it. And then somehow the courts ruled that it would be unconstitutional for Trump to use the same executive authority to get rid of it. But that's beside the point. So we've seen a constant kicking the can down the road. This should have been done when the Republicans controlled Congress, but it wasn't. It should have been done in the last shutdown. We should have used the executive action then when we had the chance. But unfortunately, we lost our leverage by allowing it to go on too long. We had to sign the continued resolution. And now we'll see how it goes in a few days on February 15th, this Friday, when the deadline hits. Now, there's another option that Congress could do. I don't think that it seems very likely with a Democrat-controlled House, but Ted Cruz, this is an article in the American Mirror, Ted Cruz put forth a bill that would use the $14 billion seized from El Chapo in order to fund the wall. Now, El Chapo, of course, if you don't know, is probably the most famous, the most prolific drug cartel leader, drug trafficker. And the United States has seized $14 billion of his drug money and money, earned from crime and that sort of things. And Senator Cruz put forth a bill that would use El Chapo's money, which was seized, in order to fund the construction of the border wall. It would be very ironic and quite fitting, honestly, the fact that the wall is to keep out crime, drugs, and people coming across the border illegally, and it would be funded by money obtained illegally from people trafficking crimes, drugs, and people illegally over the border. So it'd be very fitting, ironic, and it would circumvent this argument that the Democrats have that says our money, of course, $5.7 billion, even $20 billion for the whole thing, is less than a drop in the bucket for the entire budget, the annual budget of the U.S. government. But they're arguing, look, we could be doing so much else with this. We have many other places that this money could be going for a better cause. We're not going to use it for a wall, which we don't even need. This takes that out of the equation. $14 billion that the U.S. didn't have. It's not money that we earned in taxes. It's not, earned in taxes, I guess. It's not money that they took in taxes. It's just money outside seized from a drug lord. How could you argue with that? But I think that the best thing that this will do is just dispel that the Democrats are not willing to find any actual solution to this, because I don't think that this would pass through a Democratic-controlled House. So again, it comes down to the president's use or unuse of executive authority. And what it really comes down to is the fact that this is his central campaign promise. This is why he was elected. He was elected. Jobs are a big thing for him. tax cuts and stuff are not a big thing for Trump. That's not why he got elected. He didn't get elected for that. He didn't get elected for deregulation in the same way. He got elected for jobs, but most importantly, over immigration. And if he cannot fulfill, with the exception of a jackpot Democratic candidate like Hillary Clinton round 2, with the exception of that, it's hard to see how Donald Trump can guarantee his reelection in 2020 without the fulfillment of his 2020 or his 2016 central campaign promise. We're going to have to fight a lot harder if he doesn't get these things done. That's the main leverage. If he can get started on this, then we can get started on 2020 saying, look, this has been started when we need to have him reelected so that it can get done. But if it hasn't even gotten any started, it's hard to see what our 2020 reelection message will be. My name is Jake Lloyd, reporting for NewsWars.com.
InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
Climb to the top of the food chain with Alpha Power by InfoWars Life. For those who want to increase testosterone and energy levels. Most men know that testosterone levels begin to decline starting around 30 at a rate of about 1 to 2% per year. This drop can show signs such as fatigue, low energy, low sex drive, and muscle loss. Alpha Power is packed with some of the most potent and clinically tested ingredients on the market. The secret is in the synergistic blend of ancient ingredients that have been concentrated into their most potent forms, including Eurycoma longifolia, originally from Malaysia, maca root from Peru, horny goatweed from China, and tribulus from India. Reach your alpha male potential with Alpha Power. Head to InfoWarsLife.com and secure your bottle today.